Okay, there we go. I think we are live. Wow, it's super dark in here. Hang on. Let me turn on a panel. Oh, I think we'll find that illuminating. A little bit of a light panel right here. How about that? Okay, so, wow. Hey, YouTube. I was in court this week. I wanted to give you guys a little update. I did a little update the other day on my Facebook page. Hope you guys are following over there, facebook.com/callmegav. But regarding my fake arrest by Officer Patrick Kennedy over here in Ephrata, Washington. This was now, a month and a half ago. And if you don't know about my arrest, go to the channel and make sure you're subscribed, of course. But go to the channel and find the video. I think it's called I Just Got Out of Jail or something like that. And it's from a month or so ago. Hey, guys, I see you in there. Alexander, Heather, Secret Lover, 333, all you guys, I see you popping in there. So you guys are going to love the insanity coming from the courts. And I'm just on my phone today, so I can easily block trolls. Tons of papers building up. But here's the deal, okay? So arrested for filming, right? Charged with harassment, which interestingly enough requires a threat. I was even looking at their own documentation when they were making arguments against me. Gross misdemeanor harassment is committed when, without lawful authority, the person knowingly threatens to cause bodily injury immediately or in the future to the person threatened or any other person, etc., etc., etc. I mean, it's pretty intense, right? The term harassment, it's not very applicable there. Regardless, if any of you guys follow me, you know that my approach is not threatening violence against people, all right? So we go to court. I'm drug into court for this hearing. I had a motion that I had filed myself to get my phone back. They brought a new judge in. They brought this gruff, out-of-town lawyer who's not even an elected judge. He just came in to be the judge, right? And he's sitting up there, and he's... First of all, they're saying they really didn't want me to go pro se. The judge, all through the hearing, all through the stuff, kept basically threatening me. He's like, you're not qualified to talk about law. You don't even know the court rules. And he was like interrogating me about my knowledge of law and the court rules. And I'm like, the Constitution affirms my rights. I do have some familiarity with the court rules, but I don't need court rules to have my rights affirmed. And all through, every time, he's like, I just want to remind you, you're in peril. You're in peril. And it's like, yeah, I'm in peril from you guys, right? And so this judge, who admittedly, I was allowed to talk. I'm just trying to fix this light here. For some reason, this stupid camera is not adjusting to the light where it beams, and it's just too bright. That's a little better. I'm a little bit illuminated here, all right? So, I keep talking about illumination. I'm going to offend a cop because there's little that Blue ISIS hates more than illumination. All right, back to the story. So we're in court. He keeps talking about how much I'm in peril and blah, blah, blah and all this stuff. And they really wanted me to get a lawyer. Now, I know like maybe one or two lawyers that I do respect and that get it. But frankly, in these fake courts, they tell the truth and they don't do much better. All right? Most of the time. It's not to say they're not competent. It's just there's no law in the courts. So we're arguing. Here's what it comes down to. First, we argue this big motion, right? The prosecutor really doesn't want to give up my phone, okay? The prosecutor, they couldn't get into my phone because I password protect it. Remember how I'm always telling you guys to password protect your phones, all right? So then the phone comes up. I had filed a motion saying, give me my stuff back, right? And the judge is like to the prosecutor, well, why? The prosecutor had written up this big, long thing about, how many pages is this? Like this 10-page brief of why my phone shouldn't be given back. Now, in this brief, it talks about how they couldn't get into my phone, all right? Couldn't get into my phone because of the password. So they sent it to this private hotshot company to try and decrypt my phone, all right? Now, it's interesting because had they not stolen my phone in the first place, I probably just would have taken the video and put it on the internet, right? And so this argument is saying, like, we don't want Gavin to edit the video and change it like he does, even though I put my videos out contextually. I'm honest about the story. when I put a video out. So the judge, they go around, and the judge's like, well, how long do you want to keep his phone? Because I'm arguing my side. I did actually get to talk a little, right? In fact, at one point, the prosecuting attorney called me counsel. He's like, well, we have to we have to get such and such to counsel. And then he's like, I mean the defendant. And they were just kind of stumbling over themselves as we went through this. And I explained, look, this phone belongs to me. That's my private information. I need it for my business, etc. So the judge is like, he has to show that he's listening. And he's like, well, how long do you intend to keep his phone, right? In the end, of course, he rules with the prosecution. They don't have to give my phone back. He said they need to give it back within 21 days. Then the prosecution, they keep inferring, right? They're like, well, if we can't get his phone back, we may have to use other means if they can't unlock his phone. Now, I'm like, what do they mean by this? Okay, because here's the thing. They have no evidence. Afraid of police departments so that they do not have to be accountable does not use dash cameras. They do not use body cameras. And he's saying, the prosecutor's saying, well, Walmart had a security camera, but there's no audio, so we can't hear anything. They know I didn't commit a crime. They know I didn't threaten anyone. They're making all this up. This prosecutor, this county, they hate me because I expose the corruption. All right? So we're going around and we're talking about this, and I'm arguing, and the judge keeps trying to kind of talk to me like I'm stupid, but it wasn't really working. It wasn't that I was perfect, but I just tried to go in there not worrying. I went in there with an appeal to heaven and tried to not worry about what I was going to say and just spoke the truth. And the judge keeps telling me I'm in peril. The judge kept trying to put down my legal knowledge by saying, like, I don't know the court rules. And then I'm explaining things to the judge. I'm talking about constitutional law and history and things like that. I'm trying to say, look, this is the facts, judge. But he's not a real judge, okay? This man is not there to uphold the law or defend my rights. And he actually got pretty mad when I said, I'm assumed guilty already. I know I'm assumed guilty and I have no rights in this courtroom, and that's the problem. Something along those lines, right? And he got ticked off. He's like, I stand here looking at you and I assume you innocent. And I'm like, if I was assumed innocent, I wouldn't have been charged $2,000, right, to get out of jail, and we wouldn't be here on these fake charges. Okay? So there's nothing fair and balanced about this judge, but I was allowed to make my arguments. So the judge rules in favor of the prosecution that they don't have to give my phone back at this time. The phone is off somewhere in Timbuktu, and they're trying to crack my phone, crack into my phone. And I expressed to the judge my concern about, they may plant things on my phone. And the judge is like, well, if the defense wants to come to an agreement with the prosecution, they want to meet together in a room, and he's willing to give up the password. Now, here's the interesting thing. They've been trying to break into my phone. At this point, I'm not even sure I can access the data on my phone. And I've been looking into this. At some point, I don't know if I can bypass the lockout on my phone, even with my own password. Okay? So then the prosecutor keeps saying, well, we're going to, we may have to look at other means if we can't get into the phone. And I'm like, wait a minute, judge. I said, are you guys planning to force me? And I'm glad I brought this up now rather than later. I said, are you trying to force me into, are you planning to force me into trying to give up my password if you can't crack into my phone? And the judge is like, no, I'm not going to make you do that. I said, do I have to give up evidence against myself now? And so by bringing it up, before the prosecutor, I have the judge on the record implicitly saying, no, I'm not going to make you give up the password. I'm not going to find you in contempt because you won't give up the password, right? So we're going around. Then we're finishing up, okay? So I lost the phone argument. Then the prosecutor's like, well, I want to talk about release conditions. And this faux judge is like, okay, let's do that. So next, get this, the prosecutor wants to give me a restraining order against Officer Pat Kennedy, the harasser, collector, thug, bully in this town, who I called out, who then stole my stuff and arrested me. Okay? He wants a restraining order against me. And so we're allowed to make our arguments. And I'm like, a restraining order? I said, I wasn't harassing. He's harassing. I forget exactly how I argued it, but basically what it came down to is, this guy lives a few blocks away from me. I'm not a violent person. I've done nothing against this man other than speak out, and he's angry because of that. He's angry because he's vindictive because I put out other videos about him, which you guys can see on this channel, the encounters I had. I just had an encounter with this arresting officer a few weeks before, and he was mad. That's why he attacked me. The prosecutor doesn't like me. That's why they're trying to jam me up. Okay? So I make the argument. I say, I see this guy driving around the grocery store. I can't have a restraining order. What? He's a police officer on duty. Is he planning to quit his job during this time? What if I see him out on duty? So the prosecution's like trying to make this argument about how, well, Gavin's done gun protests. It's just this absurdity. I mean, it's absolute. We have real criminals, mostly in our government and our police, destroying this country. And these guys have the gall to pretend that they're actually arguing something relevant as they make up crimes like this and like the ones they make up against you. As people are put away for decades on terrorism charges because they spoke something that somebody didn't like, you guys. Our country has gone absolutely insane. All right? So, I made that argument, and the judge actually ruled in my favor. He said, "I'm not gonna grant this. There's no legitimate reason here." Then the prosecutor, this is funny. I mean, again, they were stumbling over themselves. The prosecutor is saying, "Well, then regarding the witnesses, we have these witnesses we're gonna call, and we think there should be an order that Gavin Syme can't like go and harass them and intimidate them." And then the prosecutor stops and he's like, "Oh, except Gavin Syme is pro se, so I guess he has a right to interview the witnesses. Well, I guess, yeah, that's not really going to work because we have to give him the right to interview the witnesses." So he's trying to get a restraining order against the cop who maliciously arrested me here in Ephrata. I mean, I've actually been thrown physically out of the police department by the chief of police in this town. And these guys are going to pretend that everything about this prosecution isn't malicious, that they're the ones being harassed as they drag me into their courtrooms. So then the prosecutor backs off. He realizes he's in a bad place with that one. And he's like, I guess we can't have an order on that. Gavin has to be able to interview the witnesses. Now, I wanted to go full activist in there, but it doesn't work in the courtroom. So I actually stayed calm. I argued the merits, and I brought up the points, and I explained that I was being denied my rights. But I didn't go take this quite the same approach as I would on the street, because when you're on their turf, this is why I don't like being on their turf. When you're in their turf, these judges and these officers sitting in the back of the room, they had officers guarding in the back of the room that actually in their off time send nasty messages to my parents and my family and flip us off on the road and stuff like that. That was one of the officers they had sitting in the back of the room in court, guarding the courtroom. So bear in mind, I mean, these judges, the system is psychotic. And so if the judge wants you dragged out in chains or tased, they're just going to do it happily, because that's what the order followers are there for. I mean, these are the definitions. Every court in America, it's not just here. Don't think it's just me or just my county. I know you guys are dealing with this too. But if you stand on the law, if you stand up there as if you're equal to an attorney, the prosecutor will get angry about it. But if you stand on your rights, don't let them fumble you up. Stand on your rights, speak confidently, speak truth and peace, all right? And just stand up for yourself. So the judge said, well, unless you present another reason, you have to give Gavin his phone back within 21 days. The judge, after me bringing it up, said that they would not try to make me give up the password. We'll see what happens on that. I don't even know if it would matter at this point. I don't know if I can get into it. Then the judge kept trying to jam me up, like, well, you don't even know the court rules, the rules of evidence. I said the rules of evidence are in the Constitution. The Sixth Amendment lays out the rules of evidence. So I'm going through, and I kept bringing up the Constitution. I talked to, a little bit about American history, things like that. He didn't want no part of that. The fact is, the judge was trying to pretend that I had no idea about law, when in fact the judge would absolutely not even address the law. The judge would not address the Constitution. I don't know if he had no concept or grasp. More likely, he just didn't care. But here's the thing. The judge doesn't care really about you knowing the rules, okay? I actually had a court rule in my hand regarding filming. And I said, I'd like to bring up the issue of filming in the courtroom because I do plan to film my trial, and I know that the court likes us to present that, and I want to work within the rules of the court when possible. So according to the court rules, I'm supposed... And the judge is getting irritated. He's like, I'm not talking about that right now. We can talk about that at trial. And I said, well, actually, according to the court rule GR 16, and so here's this judge that's been getting on my case because I don't know the court rules enough and I'm not going to be able to defend myself. I actually bring up a court rule. I know the court rule, and I don't even think he actually knew the court rule is one of the reasons he wouldn't address it, is I actually knew the court rule and he probably didn't. I said, well, the court rule says that we're supposed to talk to the judge beforehand, before the trial, so that we don't interrupt the trial. And he's like, well, I'm not talking about, we're not doing it. He said, file a motion. I said, well, according to the court rule, we're not supposed to file a motion. We're supposed to ask you about it here. There's nothing in there about a motion. And he said, well, I say you have to file a motion. All right? So the judge ignores the Constitution. The judge always talks about court rules and tries to use that against us, saying, you don't know the court rules, therefore, right? So I bring up the court rule. The judge doesn't even actually know or recognize his own court rules. Interestingly enough, like the first line in the court rules is a reminder that the court rules are not to be construed to deny anyone their rights. Okay, that's like the first thing. The court rules are administrative order for the court, really for the court officials, not for the defendant. All right? Court rules were not intended. The goal of a court rule is simply the basic decorum of how the judge and the officials run a courtroom. It has nothing to do with your rights, and yet they treat the court rules as if they are law, even though they have no legislative authority. Okay, so that's an overview of what happened in court. I went outside just after that when we got out of court. This was Tuesday, was it? I did a live stream over on the Facebook page just kind of right after we got out of court. But I just wanted to flesh it out a little, give you guys a little more info. This is what happens in court when you stand up in court and people say, well, if you know the magic words or if you say this just right. Guys, know your rights, know the law, know the Constitution, know about your life, liberty, and property, and stand firmly on those. But understand that even if you know the court rules and the Constitution better than the judge on the bench, they're going to ignore them. They don't actually care about the rules or the law. They care about their system, the Blue Syndicate. The cops kidnap, steal, and arrest the officials at the jail and the officials with the county, the city, etc. They charge the ransom. The prosecutor brings the charges to back up his cops. And the judge, every single time, finds due process and backs the prosecutor. The judge works for the prosecutor. The prosecutor works for the state. The state is supposed to work for the people, but they don't. It's all a system. It's a circle. It's the blue circle. It's the blue line. It's the Blue Syndicate. It's Blue ISIS hard at work. There is no way, short of divine intervention, which I will rely on, that I can get a fair trial in this county because it's absolutely rigged. But we'll see what happens. I'll keep you guys posted. I'll keep you guys posted on the dates. Oh, and one more thing for my YouTube friends out there. The judge gave me a warning for you. Yes, I'm serious. As they were talking about all this restraining order stuff, and they were bringing up how people had called Pat Kennedy's home and things like that, and I don't think, they left comments on his Facebook page, and there were some comments that they left on his Facebook page saying, give Gavin back his stolen property, right? But the judge brought this up, and he said that I should warn you guys to not harass the officials, essentially is what he said. I forget exactly how it was worded, but he admonished me to warn my viewers that they should be careful. Now, to be fair, I'm not encouraging you. I don't want you guys to threaten or harass either. I'm not a threatening person. I don't want to treat them like they treat us. So I do want to call out the system, but I would never take the angle of harassing or threatening, someone's family or their parents or anything like that. That's what they do to us, right? The sheriff sitting in the back of the room, he sends nasty messages to my dad about what losers we all are. I don't play that way with these people. So I appreciate your guys' support, and I'm going to let you decide what you do and where you speak out. I just encourage you to be principled. Let's show these guys when we speak out, when we go to especially the public Facebook pages for the police and Grant County Sheriff, Freda Police, things like that. But try to make sure you don't get yourself into a position, because remember, they do lock us away for our words, all right? And so we got to keep speaking out. Tristan, thanks for the super chat. And we just speak up. We love our neighbor. And so I do what I do simply because it's right, and I hope that you guys will do the same. We have to start speaking out. We have to use our voice. I do try to stay out of the courtrooms as much as possible. The truth is on my side, and as I told the prosecutor, you have no evidence. I did nothing wrong. If you want to turn this county, if you want to make, and the prosecuting attorney-elect, if you want to make this a theater to carry out your vendetta so you can prove yourself right, that's going to have to be your choice, is what my message to the prosecutor comes down to. But you're a fraud. You're not representing law. You're not representing the people of this county. The judge sitting on the bench is not representing the law. And you know what? That judge sitting on the bench is not even a judge. A judge should not be sitting on the bench that's unelected. I'm just going through my papers here, looking. Mark Chmielewski, all right? And so if you look into him on the judge records, you'll see he's not actually a judge. He's just a lawyer they hired from a nearby county to come over and do their dirty work. But you know what? I'm a man of peace. I'm not here for violence. I'm here to love my neighbor, and I love that judge, that prosecutor, Patrick Kennedy, and the Blue Line enough to tell them what you do, the way you abuse and extort and harass and collect, is not okay. And if I have to tell you that in a courtroom, if we have to show your dark deeds and the truth of it to a jury, then so be it. We just got to speak the truth and stand up. All right, guys, this is getting long. I just wanted to tell you the story, some crazy stuff. And remember that warning. The judge bade me warn you. He doesn't like you speaking out either. So just speak out with principle. Stand up with honor. You guys have a good night.